The plane was ready for takeoff and passengers were settling into their seats. Among them, an elderly black man clutched his boarding pass, his hands trembling with age. He had flown countless times before, but this time felt different. The flight attendant, a woman with a rigid expression, stood before him, eyes narrowing. "Sir, you need to leave," she said coldly. Confused, he glanced around. No one else was being asked to leave. "But why?" he asked softly. The attendant crossed her arms. "You're making other passengers uncomfortable." A hush fell over the cabin. The older man's face paled. What was happening here? And why, just 5 minutes later, would this flight attendant be humiliated in front of everyone? This story will leave you speechless. Watch until the end to find out what happened. And let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from today? Mr. Elijah Carter had spent his entire life working hard. A retired history professor, he was used to respecting and being treated with dignity. He had bought a first-class ticket to surprise his granddaughter at her graduation. This was supposed to be a joyful trip. As he made his way down the aisle, he smiled at a young mother holding a baby and nodded politely to the business people typing furiously on laptops. He settled into his seat, adjusting his reading glasses. Then he noticed the woman across the aisle, a well-dressed passenger in her mid-50s, whispering to the flight attendant. The two exchanged glances before the attendant nodded and approached him. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step off the plane," she said. Elijah frowned. "Excuse me? I've done nothing wrong." The flight attendant's lips tightened. "There's been a complaint." "A complaint?" Elijah's voice was steady, but inside his heart pounded. "About what?" She hesitated, but then said the words that sent a chill down his spine. "You don't belong here." A murmur rippled through the passengers. Some exchanged nervous glances, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Elijah looked around, searching for support. Indeed, someone would speak up. "Ma'am, I paid for this seat. I have my ticket right here," he said, holding it up. The flight attendant's expression didn't change. "Security will escort you off if you don't comply." The tension thickened. Across the aisle, the woman who had whispered to the attendant sat with her arms crossed, satisfied. Then a voice rang out. "This is ridiculous." A young man in a hoodie stood up a few rows back. "He didn't do anything." Another passenger, an older woman, shook her head. "This is shameful." The flight attendant's face turned red. "This is none of your concern," she snapped. Elijah's chest tightened. This wasn't just about a seat. This was about dignity, about decades of history repeating itself. He gripped his armrest, trying to stay calm. Then footsteps echoed down the aisle. "Is there a problem here?" The voice was firm, commanding. The captain had arrived. The flight attendant straightened up. "Yes, Captain." "This passenger refuses to leave after a complaint." The captain's sharp eyes flicked between her and Elijah. "What kind of complaint?" She hesitated. Passengers felt uncomfortable. The captain frowned. "Uncomfortable? Is there a safety issue?" "No, but is he being disruptive?" She swallowed. "No, but—" The captain's face darkened. "Then why are you asking him to leave?" The plane was silent. All eyes were on them. The passengers, holding their breath, waiting. "Sir," the captain turned to Elijah. "May I see your ticket?" Elijah handed it over with slightly shaking hands. The captain glanced at it and then turned back to the flight attendant. "He has a first-class ticket. He's exactly where he belongs." The flight attendant's mouth fell open. "But you," the captain interrupted, his voice cold, "are out of line." Then he did something no one expected. He reached for the intercom. "To all passengers, I sincerely apologize for this unacceptable behavior from a member of our crew. It does not reflect our values, and I assure you this situation will be addressed immediately." The passengers erupted in whispers. The flight attendant's face drained of color. A supervisor boarded the plane minutes later. After a brief, whispered conversation, the flight attendant was asked to step off. I, I was just following the procedure, she stammered. No, the captain said firmly. You were following prejudice. The moment she walked off the plane, the passengers clapped. Some even stood up. Elijah exhaled, the tension finally leaving his shoulders. But he knew this moment wasn't just about him. It was about something more significant. As the plane took off, a young woman beside him whispered, I'm so sorry this happened to you. He gave a small, sad smile. It's happened before, he said. But this time, people spoke up. And that was the difference. Because racism thrives in silence. And today, silence is lost. Do you think justice was served? Let us know in the comments.